It was Headington United, actually. I mean, listen, I was born in the city, brought up, went to school in the city, worked on the local paper in the city, and so of course I would gravitate towards Oxford United. It was then, as you would know, playing at the Manor Ground as opposed to the Kassam where they play now, and spent a lot of my youth following the Yellows.
In the early 1960s, it was a club that weren't even in a football league, I believe.
Well, I had to fight to get into the Football League. And after years and years of unsuccessfully trying to become a Football League club, it actually happened. I think it was Accrington, wasn't it, that dropped out?
Accrington dropped out, and United changed their name to Oxford because while they were going to see all the chairmen of all these other clubs, they all said, where the hell's Headington?
Correct.
Should they be in the Football League? And
yeah.
They altered the name to Oxford United, yeah.
It was always a financial struggle, I think, Oxford. I mean, that my overriding memory was that people would come in and try and help the club, and a lot of very good players had to be sold in those times as well. We always overachieved, particularly in cup competitions. That'd be my recollection of it.
Oh, yeah, and all the usual problems that you still face in different ways, but financial problems came along, and Oxford started to struggle badly, didn't they?
You do try to concentrate on your playing side, but you do feel, that is the club going to fold? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that?
Just simple things like the kits. I think that we had the same kit for about 4 years, and the socks had holes in them. And I remember Mrs. Baker, who used to come and do the laundry. She used to darn the socks up, so it was. I mean, now they cut holes out in them anyway, but ours were like that. But because, we couldn't afford even like a decent kit.
You'd go for a pre-match meal, and it would be a lesser pre-match meal, or you wouldn't go. If the journey was over 4 hours, then it might be an overnight stay, or could you go in the early morning and come back, and you might not get the overnight stay, so you're travelling a long time.
Oxford were in a really poor position. And it was literally hand-to-mouth existence. So it wasn't until Robert Maxwell came in. I think he paid off all the debts, which was like 250,000, something like that, I think.
He guaranteed the finances of the football club, which made a big difference. That took a lot of pressure off everybody.
Early 1980s, the potential merger. What can you remember around that time?
Well, listen, not for the first time in my life. I think I got that wrong, but they were asking me, because I was at ITV at the time, what about this? And I said, not a chance.
Robert Maxwell had this strange idea of merging the two clubs. I was at Reading at the time. There was a lot of speculation of who would stay, who would go. I mean, the two squads were going to merge. So it was unsettling for the players at the time.
It will never, ever happen. It's absolute nonsense. It's pie in the sky from Maxwell. And it's another of his pipe dreams, and a couple of weeks' time he'll be on to something else. I think it was actually a bit closer than I thought, a bit closer.
Thankfully that didn't go through. Thankfully for Reading and for Oxford, because since that time both clubs have had their separate successes.
Deep down I just went, not a chance, and I was proved right, probably quite luckily, Nick. I don't know, you were closer to it than me, I would imagine.
I don't know, I didn't want to believe it, and I knew people at Reading. No. They didn't want to believe it either. But yeah, it may have been closer than we ever imagined, because both clubs were in dire financial problems.
Thames Valley Royals, wasn't it?
Thames Valley Royals. We'd play at Didcot, or wherever. We never really quite found out where it was. We always imagined it was going to be Didcot, didn't we, between Oxford and Reading? But no, it never transpired. And there was protests on the pitch and everything else. I think both sets of supporters made it very clear they didn't want to happen, but both sets of supporters were also really concerned about both clubs surviving.
Yeah.
Before Jim Smith, Ian Greaves came, and he transformed the club. The club are really struggling in the third division, likely to go down. He turned it round immediately. They had a wonderful cup win at Brighton, who were in the first division then, and went to Coventry, almost got promotion, fell out with Robert Maxwell and went to Wolves, I think, Ian Greaves.
He got everybody to pull together, where it might have been 3 or 4 people there, 3 or 4 over there, 3 or 4. But then he just got, everybody was like that. I think that was the start in my mind. That was the way the first step on that ladder arrived.
In the end, Jim Smith came, and but to be honest, the foundations had already been set, and Jim just thrived, didn't he? Absolutely thrived at Oxford.
Our gates were like 4,000, 5,000, something like that, which in at the old Manor Ground, you know, that was okay because it was a small ground, and there was still always a good atmosphere with the London Road End. There was always a good atmosphere there.
One magnificent advantage the Manor Ground had, it had a slope on it, almost like that. And teams were never quite sure whether to go down the slope and have the advantage in the first half and then potentially be exhausted and kick up the slope. But the number of balls that would come in, almost like a ski jump, and the opposing goalkeeper would be jumping up and he'd be down by the time the ball was going over his head. So that was, and you could sit on one corner and not see the corner flag diagonally across the pitch. That was how big the slope was there.
Yeah, you got used to it after a while, but I mean, I was used to doing that from when I was a kid. You know, you played on pitches that had slopes and things. You know, I used to be ankle deep in mud sometimes. You know, playing first division football, you know, and playing in a goal mouth where the mud was, you know, 6-7 inches deep sometimes.
It was a daunting place for these big clubs. They did not like coming to Oxford and playing at the Manor Ground.
Where the change rooms were, there was like a vent in the glass window right at the top of the changing room, and you used to get like 400 or 500 people out there listening to him getting into us at half time, didn't he?
Jim was good. He was old school. He told you what he thought.
He had great man management, Smith. He was either in your face, but he was only in your face if he knew that you could take a real mouthful from him. And he knew how to put his arm around people and get the best out. He was brilliant in man management, brilliant.
He was a character, you know, if I said that right.
Yeah,
he was
I
a
think you would have
character.
been wrong, yeah.
You know, your typical old school man management. I wouldn't say he was great tactically,
no,
but he could get anyone to play.
Smithy was like this size, but he would be in your face.
He used to take his jacket off, and as soon as he started
So
rolling his sleeves,
toe
come down.
You knew it.
And you just sat there, "No, don't look at him, don't look at him. And he would go, and you. And he just used to rip into us. And he was intimidating, wasn't he? I was a bit frightened of him, to be honest.
I was dead scared of him.
But
the thing was, we were actually 2-0 up at half time. It ended as though you didn't have to be losing, you could be winning. And you'd come in and you're thinking, oh, we've done all right here, and suddenly, like Kevin says, the sleeves roll up and you think, oh no. And we're talking about seasoned pros, like we were quite young then, but seasoned pros were like, but he was brilliant.
The thing was, he would do that, but then he'd come in afterwards, or if we were in an away game and he would do that, he'd come at the back of the bus, sit down, he'd always have a red wine and a cigar, and he would come back and give you a big cuddle, and it just made you want to play for him after him absolutely slaughtering you. He had this way about him of just picking you up.
He had passion for the game, and he had some great contacts, and we got some good players in.
Smithy came on after Ian Greaves left and took it to another level. He got players in who were of a good quality, which then you just not buying success because you still had to work at it. But when he brought John Aldridge from Newport for about 70 grand, you know, and he just scored goals for fun. And we brought players in, and it was like, wow, these players are coming to it. And we got the results and everything. There's success breeds success. It was a great feeling around the football club at the time.
He had an eye for a proper footballer, and an eye to get people into work together, and he knew what he wanted, and he got the best out of us, you know.
It was fantastic that the team bonding. I mean, we all got on. There was no cliques or anything. Everybody got on with it. You know, everybody else. You know, the training was good. You know, there was David Fogg. You know, Ray Graydon, and it was just an enjoyable place to be. It's always enjoyable when you got success.
You look at our facility now; it's incredible, and everybody, even at Championship level and League One, Division One, League One level, they've got some great facilities. Well, we didn't have our own training ground, which is crazy.
You know, you couldn't drive to the training ground. You used to go to the ground itself, and then you would have got on the transit van, and that would have, I think it was about 14 of us used to get in the van, and it used to drive us to the training ground.
Take you like half an hour, sometimes 40 minutes, just to get through the city to Brasenose, which was down on Westgate Road. So that's where we trained most of the time. We did train somewhere else, which was called Dog Summit Park. And honestly, it was disgraceful. You used to, like, at the time as well, I was an apprentice, and you were clearing off dog's muck off of the football boots. Like it was incredible.
We had to wait for phone calls in the morning to find out whether we were at one of the secondary school or one of the primary schools that had a decent pitch, one of the colleges that was available. Sometimes we ended up sat in a minibus waiting for a phone call. We're playing Man United on the Saturday or Chelsea away on the Saturday, and on the Thursday we were waiting for a phone call to find out where we're going to train. Unbelievable.
No one moaned about it.
No.
We sort of laughed about it, and everyone just mucked in. You know, lads that come in from, you know, better clubs or whatever, they would come in and say, you know, but they just got on with it.
They seemed warm to it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Oxford was.
The togetherness never changed. That was a massive thing for us.
You don't win successive promotions and win big trophies without that strength in depth and that quality of player and the big characters.
To get promotion from 2 to 1, I think we played Shrewsbury and I think Dave Langan scored, and we won 2-1. One of the best evenings, one of the best celebrations. The crowd on the pitch and everyone we all just stood back up into the stand and celebrated with the team, and yeah, and then we were, hang on, we've just got back-to-back promotions and champions. Now we're going to go into the big time. And people don't realise, some of the kids nowadays that I go around to schools don't realise that Oxford United actually played in the top flight. It just put everybody on the map. You know, going out on a Saturday night, you know, we did quite often. It was good, and you know, the supporters were out, and it was a bit of a party time. Couldn't do that nowadays, but we had a few parties now and again, and it was good. But we put in shifts in training, and yeah, everywhere. Everybody was so pleased that we were doing well, and you know, they didn't want the bubble to burst.
The support was always fantastic. I think the fans understood from the promotion the year before. Didn't bring very many players in. I think I was the only real addition at the start of that season, certainly in the first team. But they understood that the players gave their all. And I think once you see that as a fan, you're fully committed to it.
A lot of change at the club during that summer as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of change. Jim on tour, because obviously we all love Jim, and Jim was going to take us all the way through to that. And we were on tour in Portugal, and he called us into the bar.
Jim was in a foul mood because he wanted a certain amount to stay at Oxford. QPR were interested in him. And we were playing up in some mountains, weren't we? I don't know, it was like a game, there was no stands or anything. And he just come in afterwards. And I was the only one in there because we got changed in his school because it had no, that's how bad it was. And and although I played for Jim at Oxford, obviously QPR and Newcastle after that, he took me to all, I wouldn't say we were close or anything like that, but he just said, I'm going. And I was like, don't.
Said that it's sort of a bit of a fallout with Robert Maxwell, and QPR have come in for him and offered him different money, and he's going to leave.
I said, please, you know, I didn't not beg him or anything, but I said, you know, we've got something special going here, and he actually told me what the financial side of it was, which again surprised me. But he said, I'm going to QPR, and I was like, you know, and I think it affected everyone, didn't it? Really,
it did.
Really knocked everyone back.
United were playing at Leeds. It was the last game of the season in the second division, and Jim, as he would if you were on the team coach, go, go, and there'd be a bottle of red wine, and you'd hear a lot of things, and he said, I'm going to leave. I thought, Jim, yeah, it was all right, Jim. He said, I was on St and Greasy's show this afternoon before the game. Robert Maxwell came on and said, we're not going to play in the Premier League, or the First Division as it was then, because of the ground and the council. And he said, I'm going to leave. And a good journalist would have followed it up. Me, I didn't believe it.
Maurice was involved with the club already in that as a chief scout, and Ray Graydon was staying as well. So Maurice took over.
Well, I remember Malcolm Shotton called a team meeting, and he said that, was there one thing about Maurice taking the job? Because I don't know if Maurice had gone to Malcolm and said, look, do you want to address the players? Which I only assume he must have done. And everyone was, yeah. Because he was a great bloke, Maurice. Let's say chalk and cheese with Jim. Very knowledgeable. Maybe too nice, but yeah, everyone was happy that Maurice was taking over.
Yeah, he's a really good football person, wasn't he?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I think he was very much instrumental in getting John Aldridge in because he was like doing the scouting side of stuff, and Ray Houghton as well. So I mean, those two players were incredible for us. So I think, but like he was very quiet, very sort of polite. He'd let you know what was going on, but if he needed to. But it was just, like you say, chalk and cheese to having Jim Smith in there.
Jim, you know, once he made his mind up, he would go. But what Maurice Evans had was massive likability. Everyone, and he had been horrendously treated at Reading as well. And you have to go a very long way to find someone to say something bad about Maurice Evans. So he kept, and that sort of eased the wound a bit, didn't it, Nick?
I think out of anybody I've met in football, certainly around Oxford, he was more knowledgeable about football and players than any other person I've met.
This is pre-computers as well, by the way.
Yeah,
where everyone's a nerd now. Everyone's
and he could tell you everything.
He would.
Yeah. And he was, well, the nicest man. You think he was too nice really to be a football man. He'd done a brilliant job at Reading.
Yes.
And then come in and help Jim.
You know, Maurice was a football man. He just wasn't someone who wanted to hit it long all the time. He wanted his players and the ones that were good at it to get on the ball as often as they could and be creative.
I mean, we were pretty solid. We had a very good back four. Obviously, with Malcolm Shotton and Gary Briggs were incredible, like no-nonsense centre halves. They were very good for us. So we were quite settled. But then he added like John Aldridge, which was a massive thing for us because he was just an out-and-out goal scorer. Signed Billy Hamilton to play with him, although Billy had a lot of injuries, but them two together when they played, they were fantastic. And then when we got to the top flight, they signed Ray Houghton, who was one of the best players that I played with at Oxford, most definitely at Oxford. So, yeah, it wasn't a massive change, but little ones here and there, and they all worked, didn't they? All the signings that he brought in worked really well.
A good start to the first season. We dipped a little bit thereafter, but then at the same time you had this Milk Cup campaign starting. What was the thought when that kicked off? Was it just another game, not really thinking much of it?
It was just not a distraction, but it was good. Okay, we're in the top flight and playing against this, that, and the other. And then I think the first round was Northampton. You're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but Northampton at home on a Tuesday night. I do know because I scored. There you go. I started off with I scored and then Ray Houghton scored in the first leg, and then we went back to Northampton and won there as well. So that was our first. Beat Norwich. I think quarterfinals was pumpy.
We drew Aston Villa in the semi-finals, which just wanted to not play Liverpool. That was the main thing, and obviously QPR went and beat them. So.
Yeah. And by the time we got to the Villa game, you know, I think
starting to believe.
Everybody started to think we can do this.
Starting to fancy it.
I think the attitude of going into the semi-final was just go and play. And, you know, you go into a two-legged game and you think, well, we'll just keep it nice and simple and this, that and the other. And we did really, really well.
John had scored. John scored the first one. I think we go and then it goes 1-1, I think, at half-time. And then, anyway, John gets a penalty second half and he notches that.
We came away with a 2-2 draw and I think we could have done better, to be fair. But then when we knew we were getting them back to the Manor Ground, we knew we'd be favourites.
It's 10 foot from corner to corner down the slope. And we knew that, you know, guaranteed that if we're 0-0 at half time or still in the game, that we're always going to score, kicking down the slope. So they guaranteed a goal. And, you know, kicking into the London Road end was just, the noise from those boys was just incredible. I think Trevor headed one on and Les Phillips was one-on-one with the keeper and slotted it past the keeper. Les has got in there and nipped in, 1-0 up. We had a free kick out on the left-hand side and I pinged one across. John Aldridge has nodded it back and Charlo scored. So we go 2 up. So we're 4-2 up on aggregate. Not a problem. And then 5 minutes before the end of the game, Mark Walters, playing for Villa, scored, 5 minutes to go. Now we're on edge. Now we're panicking. And it's just couldn't clear our lines. I think they've hit the crossbar.
I could remember feeling the nerves and you could sense it round the ground. You know, the home support had gone a little bit quiet and yet it was the Villa fans that was making the noise.
That last 7-8, we were just all in our box. And from being comfortable winning 2-0, we were holding on in the end.
we had enough, we had enough experience, and we had players that could, fight at any particular time that was required to go and win a game, and that certainly seemed the case.
Elation when the whistle went for that game.
Little Oxford United, little me, going to get to Wembley, boyhood dream, and he blew the whistle, and just emotions, just incredible. You're supposed to shake hands with people. I was just like, sorry. And I've run up to the London Road and given it, we're going to Wembley. And it was just great celebrations.
But they were at Wembley.
The final whistle against Aston Villa in the second leg, definitely the most memorable moment in my career.
That build up to the Aston Villa game over the 2 legs in the semi-final, that was the best I've seen Rosie play. He was fantastic. He's playing so well. I wasn't in the team because of that. So for him to do his cruciate, I think it was, which put him out. It was against QPR as well. It was about a month out from the final.
Because I would have been out there. Brocky's quite funny. Brocky's my best mate. I think Brocky would have been sub at Wembley, and I'd have played, but I didn't play because I was injured. So Brocky stepped in.
I thought, well, I should be playing now. But at the time, like I say, that was the best Rosie was playing. I looked at it and thought, I'm not going to get in.
Might have changed, might have been different, to be honest, but that's how I felt it was going to go.
So it's horrible for Rosie that happened, because like I say, he was playing his best football that I'd seen him play anyway.
I was more excited than nervous about the Milk Cup final because everybody was saying, well, it's going to be a great day out. They won the semi-final at Anfield, didn't they?
They did. And they beat Chelsea as well. And we'd had a relatively, I think we beat the Villa, was the only real big scalp that we had on the way to Wembley.
Taking 39,000 fans. And everybody I speak to now, people who had no interest in football whatsoever, they all went to the game, didn't they? I think it did take the whole city, the whole area, the week leading up, they suddenly realised that this is a chance you can't miss.
The week beforehand, because there was no game, obviously, in the week, and it was the longest week of my life. It was, and you start worrying, maybe I'm going to be ill or something like. It was, or I might get injured in training. It was such a long week. I felt, and it was horrible. It wasn't a nice feeling because you were so wound up, and you knew that Oxfordshire was going to be empty and it was going to be full of Oxford United fans, and you just didn't want to let anyone down, yourself down first of all, and then your family and all the supporters and everything. So I found that a real tough week.
And Maurice was such a gentleman. He tried to do exactly the same sort of things in a calmer way than Smithy. But he tried to take the pressure off everybody when we went away down to, I think it was Beaconsfield, I think we went to, for a few days. And it was just normal training, go and relax, go and have a nice bite to eat, and we'll go for a walk. So everything was done in a very relaxed manner.
It was just normal, wasn't it? A normal week.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it as sort of low key as possible, like. So I do remember in the hotel on the Saturday before the game, on Saturday night, Maurice just sat us down. It's very unusual, and he just said, "What do I expect of you individually?" And I thought that was a really good thing to do.
I remember we went down and we went to Wembley beforehand just to sample it, because none of us had ever been there as players before. Some of us might have been there as fans, watching matches, but just to sample it, to go out there and have a look around was incredible.
Did you feel sure you were going to have the number 1 jersey, or was there some debate?
At that time, yes, I thought I was playing well enough. Again, I started as number 2 to Steve Hardwick, and managed to get into the side at a good time. Played the last 25 or so games, and that involved, the important games leading up towards the end of the season to hopefully get the results we needed to stay in the first division as it was then. I made I thought a good contribution towards the results we got.
And the hard part of that was him telling who was going to play and who wasn't, because there was a lot of lads who were hoping they were going to be in that starting 11, and one or two got the bad news that they weren't going to be in the starting side itself. So that's tough.
And he went through like Judgy, Dave Langan, Sheeny, Briggsy, John Truick, all went through us all. I think he got to John Aldridge, and John Aldridge said, in typical Scouse humour, score a hat-trick. I'm going to score a hat-trick for you, boss. But I thought it was good because it clarified everything, and then we could just like settle down, go to bed, and then you're ready to go in the morning. Like.
In those times, having a club, being biased, broadcasting about it was not the done thing. It was still stiff upper lip, keep it neutral, keep it, for TV presenters. And I'd okayed it for me to wear a rosette to start with, to open the shows. I had the Oxford rosette on, so I said what I've said here. My team, born here, worked in the city, said my team.
Jim was in the posh seats in the television suite. I probably having a little coffee, and we were up on some gantry amongst
there
the
pitches.
You go. It was the old Wembley.
Yes.
Talk about in the roof.
Yeah.
Another thing as well for us, like even if you were playing for Liverpool, you weren't on the telly much live. There was maybe the FA Cup final, obviously the Milk Cup final, England, and that was about it. There wasn't like games live all the time, so that was a big factor, wasn't it? That we were actually live on a Sunday afternoon in front of a few million people, so that was another factor which added to it all, I think. So
the dressing room was quite a bouncy dressing room most of the time. Everybody was focused on the game, but you'd go around and certain players, or more often than not everybody, and wish them all the best and gee them up and get them at it. And it was just, that was getting me at it, was getting other people at it as well.
Ken Fisher was a physio, and Ken always did particularly at home, he always did the warm-up. So we had a little room next to the changing room, we'd all go in there and do a warm-up. So we did it at Wembley. We got everything out the way. Ken did his warm-up before we went out onto the pitch itself. And I just think that had a calming influence on everything, because that was what we did at home. And so it was just the same. It was just, there we go again, we're doing the same things.
You just wanted to get out on the pitch. Because once you're on there, you can, and get the first touch of the ball.
Wembley's changed now, because you come out behind the goal when we played, and the walk up towards the pitch seems to be ages.
The changing rooms were the Oxford end, so you hardly see a QPR supporter, did you? It was just a sea of yellow and blue light of Oxford United.
Obviously Smithy's in front with Morris, and I'm behind Morris.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? Like, it was because we had such good times with him.
In terms of a script, and in terms of you couldn't make it up really, and you've got the Maxwell figure in the background, you've got the ex-manager of Oxford leading out Queen's Park Rangers, and you've got his protege, who was one of his closest mates, leading out basically his team, Oxford United. I mean, it is a surreal script before a ball was kicked, really.
And then you get to the opening, and then the roar is just wow. It hits you like you've never heard anything before in your life. It's such an amazing feeling.
And as the players come out the tunnel, everyone stands up and claps. Just sat down, bawled my eyes out. Sat with my mum and dad, and just like, no, should really be out there.
And Oxford then in the yellow shirts. The yellow fever is here. I saw one banner at the Oxford end. And blue shorts attacking the goal to our left. Rangers in those blue and white hoops.
Until Trevor scored, it was a pretty dour match, and then all of a sudden Trevor scored, which gave us a massive lift before half-time.
Here's Hibbert, put free. He's turned his man well. Will he have a go?
We just went out second half and we played really well.
Yeah, the shackles off,
we played, there was played some great football.
I mean, Briggsy and myself didn't have a great deal to do. We were well supported by little Les in front of us and what have you.
But you get a goal before half-time, and you get a very good goal just after half-time as well.
He's got Aldridge waiting in the middle. He's got Houghton!
When the third goal went in, you think, wow, we've won, because you could not see them getting anything out of the game, let alone getting back to 3 or 4 goals.
Lining up the shot, pushed down, Jeremy Chase! That's 3!
And it was just an unbelievable feeling
they had gone QPR. They'd huffed and puffed a bit.
And it could have been another 2 or 3 more, I think, on the day. So it was, and you could enjoy that last little bit as well, because we were so comfortable. You know, they were, no disrespect to QPR, but they were shot, weren't they? They had nothing to give.
And checked with both linesmen. The final whistle. Oxford. A dream has come true. They've won the Milk Cup.
You just said, we've won. And it took a little while for it to sink in, because you played the game, and Wembley was quite a sapping on your legs, because I think it was the mental aspect of playing at Wembley in a cup final, as well as the pitch, was quite sapping. Everybody was expecting QPR to go and win the game comfortably, but we were so at it and focused on what we were doing as a team. We dominated a lot of possession, we dominated a lot of area. I can't think Judgy had that much to do.
I was a bit of a spectator in the Milk Cup final. The lads performed fantastically, I can't take credit for the clean sheet. I didn't have much to do, to be quite honest with you. There was some organising, obviously. I was a talker and helped, and organising things at the back was important, and the players liked it.
To have that feeling of we've won and we're going up to pick the trophy up was just, you just can't get your head around it. It was an amazing feeling. It was like all my birthdays and Christmases had come together, because it was something I dreamed about from watching football from 5 and 6 year old, and I'm going to be the final captain and this and that and the other, and it was a fantastic feeling just to go up and think, good God, and all our side was yellow and blue, and the other side was emptying quickly. Was wow. You just cannot really explain the feeling what was inside your body at that time.
Third division days to say, well, in a couple of years, lads, you'll be a winner at Wembley. Well, splendid headgear and a splendid second half performance. Malcolm Shotton with the chairman of Oxford, Robert Maxwell. What a happy, unforgettable day for them.
For any Oxford fan, what happened afterwards was just fantastic. I mean, there was, Maurice Evans didn't want to go up and lead the team. He didn't. And dear Ken Fish, who I can remember being there for goodness knows how many, the old
like
trainer,
really,
stiff back
Oxford,
and grey hair, the old, and also hated the spotlight, and to push him up there
to take his medal,
to take the medal.
Jim Smith and 72-year-old Ken Fish.
And of course, dear old Malcolm Shotton dancing up there as well, doing his little dance after. I mean, they're all memories that are actually locked in there, and and until we both wave this place goodbye, we'll still be there. We'll still be there. Yeah,
never ever forget.
I mean, there's a line that Brian Moore delivered after the win, and he said, "The unbelievable has happened."
And a dream has come true.
We didn't over celebrate or anything like that. Remember just getting the trophy. We had a picture took with the trophy, and then we just did a lap of honour, and that was it. We were off.
And even Jim said after the game that his players bottled it, basically, wasn't it? They froze. Where
he came in, didn't he, afterwards?
He spent more time in our change.
I think 10 minutes after the final whistle, he was in our change. Well, after we did our little lap of honour and stuff, so it had been a bit longer than that. But he came in and just sat with us and had a glass of champagne with us, didn't he? And it was like, and he was just the same. He was still the same. And I thought that was showed what sort of bloke he was, like that he just come in and I think he was genuinely pleased for us. Obviously, he was gutted that they didn't turn up, if you like, but he was. It was great to have him sat there, and he was in there for quite a while, wasn't he? Afterwards, I think he drank a bottle of champagne. Yeah.
I can sit here and say I don't think I've ever seen Oxford play better than they did in that game at Wembley. Honestly, and I think there's so many teams that get there and just are a shadow of themselves. But that day, I mean, Oxford just grew.
It didn't give QPR a sniff, did they?
Just grew and grew.
Just
They hardly
did
they hardly laid a glove on us.
We ended up at the Bell Inn at Beaconsfield, whichever it is, and yeah, we just met up there, and that was great. A few celebrations there.
The journey home to Oxford was unbelievable. It was like a conquering army coming back. Every car, every coach, every fan had a yellow and blue scarf. Oxford everywhere. And it was where the M40 was still being completed, so there was great long traffic queues. Nobody worried. People were standing on the roofs of their vans and their cars. And as you came back into Headington, I remember there was a policeman at the Green Road roundabout, and he was trying to direct the traffic. In the end, he just put both arms in there and thumbs up, just let everybody come through.
Let everyone go through. Let everybody go through.
Conquering army coming home. It was amazing.
I actually took the trophy home that night. Ended up on the team coach from there. Mr. Maxwell was off the coach. Maurice had gone home. Malcolm Shotton knew that I'd missed out and I was disappointed. So he said, so I took the trophy home that night and woke up with it in the morning. And then 2 days later, we did the open top bus.
We met up for the drive through the city, and it was pouring rain, if I remember. And then we went, had a few beers, and then we went to to some Indian place in Oxford.
We went to sort of promote some local businesses. He wanted us to come along, free meal and a couple of beers. Great, we'll have some of that, carrying a beer. We all got, a few beers and things, and there was a few practical jokes, and that was probably as bad as anybody else. But at the end of the night, I remember picking up my jacket and thought, oh, this feels a bit heavy. And when I checked, all the pockets were full up with curry. And we were told to go in our Milk Cup final suits, so that we could take pictures afterwards and promote the business.
I don't know if either you two were responsible, but they put curry all in the pockets of his cup final suit.
I'd been Rosie.
That was Rosie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been Rosie.
Yeah.
Peter Foley, a good friend of mine, actually recommended a landlady, and I was there at the time, and she was fantastic, Marge. I managed to get my suit jacket home, and I was a bit embarrassed, and I took it into the shed in the back garden, and forgot about it, to be quite honest with you. Forgot it was there. And a few weeks later, Marge came into the living room and threw the jacket on me and said, that took me 5 dry cleaning. I dry cleaned it 5 times. And she said, you'll thank me for it, one day. And sure, yeah, I've still got the suit in my wardrobe at home. So yeah, it's a nice little thing to remember that, the fun we had after, the Milk Cup final and how good Marge was to me, looking after me. She was fantastic.
Nick Johnson was our commercial manager. He suggested that we should all grow beards. We won't shave until we win the Milk Cup. That was the shout. And we all went, okay, that's fine. So I started growing a beard. Myself, Charlo, Ray Houghton, Mick Moore, the groundsman, I think Nick Harris as well, you'll have to ask him, and Nick Johnson, commercial. So there's about 5 of us that started to grow beards. And desperate to shave it off, to be fair. It didn't suit me, but we couldn't shave it off. We said, you're not going to shave it, because if you shave it off, we'll lose. Superstitious and all that. And we got through to the final. So I still had my beard. Charlo had his beard. Everyone else did as well. Ray Houghton had his until the day before Wembley. And as he ran out the tunnel, no beard.
I shaved before, maybe for the final. I think my missus taught me, now you can't look like that if you're going to be at Wembley.
I said, we're going to lose. And he said, well, no one's going to see me across the world in a scraggy beard. So he shaved it off.
And so then they won it, and I had like 10 seconds to end the programme. And I had got hold of one of these, and I put the cap on, and I said, well, for Oxford and for me, this has been a fantastic day, best day in the club's history. No apologies for this. Come on, you Yellows. Good night. And I thought, that's not bad, But the boss, the big boss of ITV, a man called John Burt, took grave exception to this, grave exception. And in honesty, without going into the detail, probably set my career back 3 to 5 years, 3 years probably. But I still get people saying, you still got that hat, boy, you still got that hat, and so I would do it again 100 times out of 100.
We said, like, when we come back from Wembley and we all sat down together, went, right, great, we've all sobered up, That's fine. The trophy's back in the cabinet. It's all polished. Right, now we've got to get on with it, and we have to. It's no use winning the trophy and then getting relegated. You're right. So we just said, so we dug in. We won a couple, lost a couple, and then the final game of the season was Arsenal at home, and we had to win to stay up.
2 weeks is a long time in football. A fortnight ago, Robert Maxwell's Oxford won the Milk Cup. Today, they were fighting for their First Division lives. In front of a packed crowd, they were given a dream start by Ray Houghton. A goal up after just 3 minutes.
I think they just turned up.
They had good players, but yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think they were up for that much. But it was a great performance.
Billy Hamilton scores number 3 and the celebrations begin.
Oxford 3, Arsenal 0. Arsenal, I think, won the beach.
And it was such an easy win. You know, at any time I think we was going to lose it or anything. Yeah, we come through it quite well.
The fact that it was at home as well.
Yeah,
We were so confident playing anyone at home, so it was, yeah, like I say, it's comfortable, so which was handy, because it was a very nervous moment.
Put us on the map. You know, we weren't like a one-hit wonder. You get into the First Division and everyone expected us to get relegated. But one, we didn't, and two, we won the Milk Cup final.
It should be remembered as how a club of Oxford's size can, and I'll put it in the present tense, can go all the way in a major competition.
Well, I would imagine it's obviously the best that's...
the biggest achievement.
Yeah. You don't realise that at the time, do you?
No, no.
It's not until like the years go by and you still got people coming up to you and saying that I was at the Milk Cup final, you know, and stuff like that. And I know that it means, you know, there's pictures in the Kassam Stadium, I know, like of Sheeny with Malcolm Shotton with the cup and everything. So yeah, it was incredible for a club of Oxford size to actually go and win that. You know, you look at Manchester City have just won the same competition, so you know it shows what an achievement it was. But like I say, at the time, it was fantastic. But until the years go by, you realise what an achievement that it was.
I'm now, as club ambassador, going around to schools, care homes, secondary schools, businesses. I'm going into care homes, and those guys are sat there in their Oxford United shirts talking about the Milk Cup final. You know, talking about the game against Chelsea, talking about the Villa game. I'm going to primary schools, talking about the Milk Cup, but oh, hang on, that's the Carabao Cup. So that's what Man City have won or winning and stuff. So kids don't realise how, now they're realising. I was like, ask your dads or your granddads or your great uncles and your aunties about the Milk Cup. So I think one of the best days in the history of the club.
It was unbelievable for us to go there, but to go there and win, that was sort of, you know, that sort of surpassed your wildest expectations, really.
Yeah. For a club that was, I think it was Headington Amateurs around the 1960s, for you know 30 or so years later to go, you know, as Oxford United go to Wembley and win a cup final for a club of that size is something that, you know, there was many bigger clubs, your Arsenals and all these, many other teams hadn't won that cup. For us to go on and for Jim Smith and Maurice Evans to have put a team together, and Jim Smith obviously must take a massive amount of credit for that cup win, because it was mostly his team, you know, almost all of the side was his team. Fantastically marshalled by Maurice, and he continued his legacy extremely well, and yeah, you know, for a club like Oxford United to have a trophy as big as the League Cup, you know, is a fantastic legacy for the club.
3 trophies in 3 years. We were in the Guinness Book of Records. That didn't happen.
Yeah, well, like I say, they'd probably say 1986 was the best season ever, like I say, for the Cup and for staying in the First Division. So to be a part of that is something special.
It's maybe 40 years ago, but I'm sure it's pretty fresh in most people's minds nowadays. It was one of those days that for Oxford United supporters, it's something they'll probably never forget.
I'm very proud and honoured to be part and parcel. I mean, that period of time is probably the most important of the football club. Well, getting up, getting promoted and things like that from levels at any level is important. But we had 3 successful years which will probably never ever be beaten. you know, and that was from anybody, let alone from our club. But to have an impact and be part and parcel of that, it leaves you gobsmacked. It really does.
It's not about any individual, and it's not about any year. We did what we did in 85, 86. We won that trophy, but there was lots of outstanding teams for Ox before it, and there's been a lot of outstanding teams after it. I don't think you should highlight one above any others, because anyone that plays for Oxford United are privileged to play for that football club. You are part of that history of the club as well. So I'm delighted for everyone who's had the opportunity, and all I'd say to, you know, up and coming youngsters, I've seen some here at the training ground, is savour it, enjoy it, because let me tell you, when you're finished, all you've got is memories. You've got nothing else to fall back on apart from the memories of being in certain situations. I can't remember every game that I played for Oxford. I can't remember every game that I played for other clubs, but there's certain ones that stand out to you. 2 semi-finals against Aston Villa, the final against QPR. They're the memories that I've got now of being at this fantastic football club, and I hope the youngsters today understand that your career goes by very, very quickly. So whenever you're in and with an opportunity of doing something, savour it, enjoy it, you know, sample it for what it is, because they're the moments when your career's finished, but you'll sit back and remember. I hope we brought them joy. I hope we brought them a freedom of expression to go there and look at their team and come away thinking, you know what, not that they were good, bad and different, but that, as I come back to it, they gave it their all. They were players that gave 100% for the club.
Never forget the past. Don't dwell on the past. And never forget it. And what built this club is community. It's about being Oxford as a whole area, and I don't think the club could do more than they do at the moment in that way. And never lose that. It's so important. It brings people together and it brings people happiness, and long may that continue.